Today is my younger brother's wedding day, and his fiancée, Emma, has just launched herself at me. Her voice rang out so loud that everyone could hear, cutting through me like a sharp knife. The very thought of my brother's wedding had filled me with joy, but why am I standing here, being humiliated in front of our family? The pain from her words settled deep in my chest and spread through my body. The warm atmosphere of celebration seemed to dim instantly, and a chilly silence filled the room. Was I the only one feeling shaken, or had the guests also started to look at me with judgment? I could feel the weight of their cold stares, as if everyone here silently agreed that I didn't belong. "You shouldn't be coming around here. It's just you don't really belong here, Jane." Emma's sharp eyes made it clear she thought I was a burden. "You have no place here," her gaze seemed to say. I felt the urge to speak up, to defend myself, but every time I tried to find words, they got caught in my throat. Anger, sadness, frustration, they tangled inside me, too overwhelming to sort through. Every breath felt tight, and my legs started to shake. As much as I wanted to deny it, I couldn't help feeling that maybe she was right. Had I depended too much on Kevin? I'd leaned on my younger brother over the years, maybe even without realizing how much of a burden I'd become. It's true that my presence might have been straining their relationship. Then maybe I was the problem. But even if that's true, she didn't have to say it like this. Emma's words had only one purpose: to make sure I knew my place. "I understand," I said. The words came out as if someone else was speaking them. I could barely recognize my own voice. It was quiet, rough, drained. But that was all I could say. I stood up calmly, trying my best to keep it together. I wanted to stay and at least see the ceremony through to the end, but I knew I couldn't stay in this room any longer. The thought of tainting Kevin's happy day with my presence was unbearable. I took a step toward the door, feeling like I was slipping out of my own life. Just as I reached for the door handle, there was a loud crash behind me. I turned and saw that a chair had fallen over. My name is Jane, and I'm 32 years old. I often wonder how different things would have been if that accident hadn't happened. Kevin and I lost our parents when I was 11 and he was just 8. They were coming back from a weekend trip when the accident occurred. By the time we got to the hospital, both of them were gone. It felt like the world had gone silent. I didn't know how to process the reality in front of me. The only clear memory I have is of Kevin's small hand shaking in mine. After that, we went to live in a children's home. The staff there were kind, and we quickly got along with the other kids. But no matter how familiar our surroundings became, there was always a hollow ache inside me. I wanted to see Kevin smile, so I promised myself I wouldn't cry in front of him. I thought if I cry, he'll be sad too. Being a big sister became my reason to keep going. I didn't deal with my own loss. Instead, I focused entirely on taking care of Kevin. Taking care of him gave me purpose. When I turned 18, I had to leave the children's home. There were programs to help us pursue college, but I chose not to use them. If anyone was going to college, it had to be Kevin. I started working during the day and attended night classes at a vocational school. I studied event planning. I had a small dream of starting my own business someday, but that dream felt distant. My main goal was to support Kevin. I even took out loans to make sure he could go to college. I knew a scholarship could help, but I didn't want Kevin to worry about finances. While I worked, Kevin was working hard at his studies. Watching him study fueled my resolve to support him however I could. And Kevin didn't let me down. He graduated from college and landed a job at a large company. I couldn't hold back my tears when I heard the news. All those years of hard work and debt were finally worth it. As long as I could see him happy, every struggle felt meaningful. After starting his job, Kevin began sending me $1,500 a month. I wanted to tell him to keep the money for himself, but his message left me speechless. "Sis, you did everything for me. Not giving something back would feel wrong. Please accept this." Reading his words, I cried again. It moved me to know he recognized my sacrifices. But I also felt a strong sense that I couldn't keep relying on him. So I quietly started saving the money. I wanted to return it to him one day if he ever needed help. With the skills I had learned in school, I started a small event planning company. At first, I worked alone, but over time, business grew and I became busier. Kevin started helping me on weekends, even though his job was demanding. Then one day, Kevin told me he had started dating someone, Emma. She worked at a partner company and Kevin seemed thrilled. Seeing his happiness made me genuinely happy for him. But I also felt an odd pang. Was it loneliness? The fear of losing him? I congratulated him, smiling, but inside I felt a mixture of emotions. Emma seemed like a good person. She made Kevin happy, and when we met, she appeared polite and kind. But sometimes her smiles felt a bit distant. When we met with Emma's family for a pre-wedding dinner, that feeling became even clearer. We gathered at a nice Japanese restaurant. Emma's parents were sophisticated, but something about them felt subtly dismissive. "Kay, you've come so far growing up in a children's home. I mean, how admirable," her mother said. Her words seemed harmless, but they stung. Her tone was friendly, yet her eyes held a judgmental gaze. "I wouldn't have come this far without my sister," Kevin answered politely, but his voice was tense. He always spoke proudly about our past, but here it felt like he was holding back. I wanted to speak up, but I couldn't ruin Kevin's happiness. After dinner, he told me not to worry, but his words only made the pain sharper. I could see he was hurt too, but he was doing his best to make things work. I wanted him to be happy above all else. Despite the uneasy feeling, I tried to connect with Emma. As the wedding plans went on, I spent time with her reviewing guest lists, picking out dresses. Emma was always polite, but there was still a coldness in her manner. "Is Kevin still sending you money?" Her question hit me like a stone. "Honestly, I think it's a bit much now that we're getting married. Our finances should come first." I felt speechless. I knew she wasn't entirely wrong, but she couldn't understand. To Kevin, that money was more than repayment. It was a symbol of the life we built together. Still, Emma had a point. It was probably time to draw a line. That night, I decided to talk to Kevin. "Emma doesn't seem too happy about the money, does she?" "I figured she'd bring it up," he said, looking resigned but determined. "Maybe it's time to stop, Kevin. You have a family to focus on now." My heart ached as I said it. "I'm not stopping, Jane. You've done so much for me. I can't just quit now." His words brought tears to my eyes, but I couldn't let him see that. "All right, Kevin. I understand." I knew that forcing him to stop would only make him more determined. For now, I'd let him make his choice. The wedding day finally came. I did everything I could to support their happiness. Kevin's happiness was all I'd ever wanted, but deep down, I still had an uneasy feeling. Would Emma really be the one to support him the way he needed? The ceremony went smoothly, and I felt a wave of relief. Watching Kevin smile gave me a sense of peace, as though all my sacrifices had been worth it. But then, during the reception, the unexpected happened. "Please stop coming to visit, Kevin." Her words were like a knife to my heart. The room went silent, and I felt every gaze turn toward me. I stood there, stunned, unable to respond. I could feel my face go pale, my heart sinking. Emma's gaze was sharp, as if to say I didn't belong here. I wanted to say something, but no words came out. My throat tightened with anger, sadness, and humiliation. I managed to say the only thing I could. "I understand." My own voice sounded distant and unfamiliar. I tried to keep my composure, to leave without causing more of a scene. But just as I reached for the door, I heard a loud crash. I turned around to see Kevin standing, his face filled with anger. "Emma, do you even know what you just said?" Emma looked taken aback, but couldn't shake off his grip. "You don't know anything about what she's done for me," Kevin said. His voice was low, but filled with rage. "Without my sister, I wouldn't be here today. She sacrificed everything to make my dreams possible." His words rang through the room, and nobody dared interrupt. "I send her money every month because it's the least I can do for what she's given up for me. That's not charity. It's respect and gratitude." Emma stood frozen, shock and fear in her eyes. The family and guests around us began murmuring. "I've known Jane my whole life. She's always put others before herself." One by one, my relatives and friends started speaking up. She helped Kevin through so much. We all know how much she's done for this family. Emma's face turned pale as the guests voiced their support for me. Then one of Kevin's colleagues stepped forward. Honestly, Emma can be difficult at work. She's known for her sharp tongue. Another colleague joined in. It's true. She can be overly harsh, always pushing others down. Slowly, her colleagues revealed sides of Emma I hadn't known. With each confession, Emma's face grew paler, realizing the respect she thought she'd earned was slipping away. Just then, the doors opened, and a man entered the room. He was impeccably dressed, a quiet strength radiating from him. My apologies for being late. Mr. Jameson, welcome. Mr. Jameson was a prominent figure, a senior manager from a major business partner of Emma's family's company. Is something the matter here? Oh, no, Mr. Jameson. Just a family misunderstanding. I see, he said, but his eyes told me he sensed more than he let on. You must be Jane. I've heard impressive things about your event planning company. Thank you, Mr. Jameson. I was surprised that he knew about my work. Jane is a foster home graduate. I'm sure we'll want to evaluate partnerships with that in mind, Emma's father said dismissively. Actually, I grew up in foster care myself. The room fell silent, and Emma's father's face went pale. I've always respected those who push through adversity. Jane's work reflects that spirit. At our company, we choose partners based on merit, not background. Excluding someone due to their past would be against our values. His words filled me with pride and gratitude. Jane's been a pillar for our community. Emma's words were out of line. I agree. Our family deserves better. Kevin's words rang with finality. I can't marry someone who doesn't respect my family. Emma looked stricken but couldn't protest. Kevin walked over and hugged me tightly. Thank you, Jane, for everything. Thank you, Kevin. I'll always be here for you. That moment marked a new beginning. Over time, my business grew thanks to Mr. Jameson's support. I became known for my dedication and creativity in event planning, and Kevin became my business partner, helping us take on new challenges together. We've come so far, Jane. We have, and I'm grateful for every step. In the end, our bond only strengthened, creating a life full of support and new opportunities. Together, we continue to move forward, building a brighter future side by side.